I am a survivor of rape, and I've been vocal about it. It was a girls' night out. I was walking from one club to another, and then it happened in that walk, right? And immediately afterwards, my friends were
On the street?
On the street.
No one came to your rescue?
No.
From being a radio personality for a whopping decade to a podcaster and now the owner of a media company, this 34-year-old girl hasn't shied away from being vocal and living intentionally and unapologetically. Hello and welcome to Traktion. My name is Adele Onyango. Today on the show, we sit down with Adelle Onyango, a Kenyan media personality who speaks to us so much more, including The Broken Silence, the Legally Clueless project, and so many other things, including sexual violence. I hope you enjoy Adelle Onyango's story.
Effects of colonization can still be felt to date.
Adelle Onyango, a renowned Kenyan radio presenter, social activist, and media personality, has a remarkable journey of resilience and advocacy.
The air of denial that France chooses to sit in is uncomfortable, not only for Africa, but also for France.
Born in 1989, she experienced a life-altering event in 2008 when she survived rape, igniting her passionate advocacy for rape survivors.
Hi, my name is Adelle Onyango, and I am a rape survivor. When I think back to my journey, I'm really grateful that my late mom encouraged me to go for therapy, because I now know firsthand how important therapy is when healing from trauma.
Adele founded the groundbreaking No Means No campaign and provided a platform for artists to share their stories through open mic nights at her university. Her career soared when she joined 1FM as a radio presenter after university, and in 2012, the loss of her mother to breast cancer spurred her to raise awareness about the disease. Adele became a social media influencer and ambassador for Intel's She Will Connect program, empowering African women through internet access. Adele's dedication expanded with her Sisterhood Mentorship program, offering critical support to women across Africa. She tirelessly championed women's rights, providing resources for survivors of rape. In 2018, she launched Unapologetically African, including a high school work experience program. In 2019, Adele ventured into podcasting with Legally Clueless.
Hi guys, my name is Adelle Onyango and welcome to the first episode of Legally Clueless.
Collaborating with Lanji Ouku, she co-authored the impactful book Our Broken Silence in March 2022, giving voice to survivors, activists, and more. Adele's relentless commitment earned her recognition from the BBC, OK Africa, and Africa Youth Awards. Her story exemplifies resilience, determination, and the unwavering pursuit of justice and empowerment, inspiring women and girls worldwide. Adelle Onyango is a true role model and advocate for change. She shares her inspiring story on Traktion with Adele Onyango.
Thank you for creating time to be with us today.
Anytime.
I understand you're really busy.
I think we all are. We all are. And I think it's so interesting that you talk about being busy, because I think about it from a social media standpoint where everybody's constantly posting how we're grinding, we're doing this, we're doing...
Yes.
I don't think people are busy all the time.
Where did you go to school to?
So in primary school until class 7, I was in Loreto Convent Valley Road, which has given this country very many great women.
Including yourself.
Yes, and like Caroline Motoko went there, and quite a few other, actually very many women in the media. And then after that, I moved to Botswana, and I went to high school there for 3 years, because 844, I switched from 844 to IGCSE. 844, what I'd learned in class 7 was the equivalent of Form 1.
Yes.
And so I went to school there at a school called Westwoods. That was wonderful. We had people from different countries. I really think that's where my personality was formed. That's where I found out that I loved poetry. That's where I found out that I loved creating things and working with women and girls. And even Pan-African, being a Pan-African really started there because, as you know, Southern Africa, their colonial past is very... I mean, we had it here in Kenya as well, but apartheid and things like that.
Apartheid, yeah.
So race is a big issue. And so I think that's when I started understanding, like, oh, this racism thing is a thing, it exists, and people encounter it on a day-to-day. And I think that just started formulating in my head as a teenager. And then I came back to Kenya, and I was too young to go to uni, according to my late mom. And so I went to St. Mary's, another school that's given us amazing Kenyans. And I did my IB, which is like your A-levels, and it was wonderful. Then I went to USIU. Yeah.
You're actually mtoto wa ubabini. You know the way Kenyans, classify kids and stuff like that? Yeah. You're such an uptown kid. Tell me about your mother. I understand she passed on because of cancer.
Yes, unfortunately. We lost my mom when I was 23. My mom,
Sorry.
Thank you so much. My mom battled cancer, breast cancer, for a long time. And, just watching her talk about cancer at a time when it was synonymous with death, I think really impacted me, learning how to own my story and know that there's no shame. She taught me that. She taught me how to handle your story gracefully, how to live in service of others, because she helped so many survivors access treatment. Some would even stay in our house when we were younger. And so I don't know, I think that loss is a loss. When I think about grief, I just have to kind of get comfortable with her not being here. And there are days where I'm very comfortable with it, like today, and I'm talking and I'm not crying about it,
Yeah.
And then there are days where it hits you, you're like, what? So you mean tell me, she's not coming back, And there are obviously days where it's more heated, like Mother's Day, or her birthday, or my birthday. And so you have a couple of days like that where grief is very tricky.
How did you, think about, bringing Legally Clueless to life?
Oh my goodness. It looks like I know what I'm doing. And I keep telling people the name of Legally Clueless.
Actually, you are really clueless.
I still am to date. When I quit radio, I was very tired. I got into radio when I was 20. I handed in my resignation when I was 30. Just before my 30th.
Years, yeah.
10 years of daily work. You know how media is. It's like every day, you're not taking breaks. When people are going on holiday, what is a Christmas holiday?
Yeah.
You're at work. And I think it just became so monotonous. And I remember, I think it was Caroline Motoko, and I was having a conversation with her. And I think she summed it up so well, because she said, the world is calling you. And I was like, I think that's what's happening, actually. And
You're
I'm just
feeling it.
Constantly either picking up or going to Teja, or you know what I mean? And I had to jump, and it was so difficult. It was so difficult, because you're thinking, first, finances, right? How am I going to fend for myself as an individual, or the financial goals that I have, Then you're thinking, radio is all I've done for 10 years. What if I'm not good at anything else,
What is it that I'm going to do
And what is
here?
that other thing?
Yeah.
And I remember someone so close to me and so dear to me sent me a link after I had resigned, so I'm serving my notice, and they sent me this link of my podcasting, and they're like, check it out. And at the time, I'm just like, I'm not digging into my savings. So I don't know, these things you're sending me, I really don't know. But I read up on it, and I read up on microphones. Yeah. And on USB microphones. So those are microphones you connect directly to your laptop. I was like, what? Because I was coming from legacy media. The studio I worked in had huge equipment that would be humming.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I was like, wait, there are microphones that I can just this is
Plug in
interesting.
and play, yeah.
And then I checked the Amazon link and I saw the amount. I was like, you know what? I think I can afford 2. And this is, I wouldn't have broken my bank. So I got 2 microphones. And then I just kept putting one foot in front of the other, not knowing what am I doing? Because I had quit thinking I'm going to go into the NGO world completely. And so my microphones arrive. I turned the extra room in our apartment at the time, changed it into home office. And then I was like, okay, maybe now it can be a studio also. Like this side is for NGO work, and then this side we can record. And when everything had arrived, I cried a lot. So I was stressed. I didn't know, I'm leaving a breakfast show on the top station.
And you didn't have plan B.
I didn't know what, and this plan B, I'm just like, what is it even? And so I call that same friend and I'm crying. And they tell me, well, then just record that. What you've told me, just record that. And I hang up, and immediately the name Legally Clueless came to mind. Like, I kid you not, then and there. And the first episode is 8 minutes of, you can hear from my voice, especially if you're in media, you'll know our voice is not 100. Because I was crying just 2 seconds ago. And I was just talking about, I'm leaving this job. I don't know what I'm doing. I miss my mom so much. She used to go through my contracts for me. And I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I'm just like, hey, you guys, things are thick here. I don't know what I'm doing. And that became episode 1. And then I just kept putting one foot in front of the other. We're about to turn 5 years old. We now have 228 podcast episodes. We have 3 seasons of a video series. We've toured Kenya. We've toured Zimbabwe, which was amazing because Zimbabwe is not what the Western world wants us to believe Zimbabwe is.
Yeah.
So going there and recording stories from there and seeing this beautiful country really made me aware that that's why I'm doing what I'm doing, is to be able to say, hey, Africans, it's so important for us to take our stories back, because
Tell our stories
exactly,
the way they are.
because the way we're being portrayed, tricky, right? And we toured France as well, which is so beautiful. Because
what has made you be very intentional and vocal about speaking about the uncomfortable,
My mom never shied away from uncomfortable conversations, even in the house. So, like, the sex talk was not a strange
taboo
thing.
Yeah.
If I think I had my first boyfriend when I was 15, turning 16, which might be taboo in many African homes. But my mom knew him, and like...
But he didn't sleep at home.
No, that one...
Yeah.
There's only one guy who has ever slept, and he's my friend to date, Edgar. And I always introduce him. I'm like, the only man, my mom... but we were just friends, and our moms were friends, so that was why. But so even in the home, talking about that was not taboo. And then to the work around breast cancer, when you talk about breast cancer, people like shy away. And even like the way we're socialized, even as African women, we wouldn't even talk about our breast health, because breasts, like, don't talk about it. Like, not my mom.
Considered private.
My mom was very vocal about it, and so you learn as a kid from what your parents do, not necessarily what they say. And watching her, it just became normal to me, right? The things that people think you should be embarrassed about saying, to me, I'm like, no, I went through this, and it's okay.
So talking, perhaps you are delving further into that, but talking about things that people are embarrassed talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, I read the incidents of you being abused, You want to talk about it?
Yeah, I mean, I am a survivor of rape, and I've been vocal about it. And I think for a long time, as with many other survivors, you blame yourself. And I think what contributes to that blame is, because it's not talked about, so you think, okay, I did something wrong.
Don't you think it's unfair to blame yourself?
Absolutely. It's absolutely unfair, and it's wrong, because no one should ever violate any person's
Human
body,
rights,
regardless of gender, regardless of race, economic background, all of those things. And so I think for a long time, I felt ashamed But all of that changed, I think, 2 years after.
When was that? And where were you
2008.
at?
I was in Westlands, 2008.
How old were you then?
How old was I? I think I was 18. It was a girls' night out. I was walking from one club to another, and then it happened in that walk, right? And immediately afterwards, my friends were...
On the street?
On the street.
No one came to your rescue?
No.
And that guy even didn't feel...
And those are the
anything?
things where you feel like that could trigger shame, right? So when a lot of times survivors, and even in my journey of healing, you replay the moment and you say, maybe I should have screamed, maybe I should have done this, maybe, but regardless, I shouldn't have needed to do anything because that shouldn't
somebody
have...
should have just done it right. I mean,
Exactly,
not do it.
right on. And so, things don't end with that traumatic event. You have to go to hospital. You have to... I didn't report it at the time. I reported it afterwards, which was part of therapy, not necessarily believing in our judicial system per se. It was more therapeutic. The change came after I told my mom, because immediately my mom said, okay, did you do all the necessary medical checkups to make sure you are okay? And as soon as that was established, we started looking for a therapist. Mark you, this is like in 2010. My mom was that forward thinking, and we don't come from money, and so if therapy is expensive now, you can imagine how it was then, right? And so we shopped around for a therapist. We found a therapist, and she made sure I was going to therapy. And I think for me, that's one. There are many things I'm thankful to her for, but that one, because I don't know if I'd be sitting here.
That was a terrible experience. I'm really sorry to hear that. Yeah.
So even for survivors, most survivors stay away from reporting because the burden of proof is on you.
Lies on
it
you.
means you're going through you have to be re-traumatized and relive it. And there's a huge possibility the outcome may not be justice.
You shouldn't have had to go through that. And I was perhaps looking at the book that you co-authored.
Our Broken Silence, I co-authored it with a brilliant Kenyan woman. Her name is Lanji, and she's wonderful. We are Kenyan, but we met in New York. And initially we wanted to do a podcast. She has a legal background, very, very passionate about women empowerment and survivors especially. And we thought we were going to do a podcast and talk about these issues. And the more we did research, the more we're like, okay, maybe this is like a season, not just one episode. And the more then Lanji says, I think this is a book.
And that's
the book was born. And it basically is a collection. It's like a journal of stories of survivors of sexual violence from the greater East African region. So not just Kenya, but across East Africa, and from pre-colonial time to present day. And so that already tells you something's not working, because how do we have stories from back there to today? And you can draw parallels, right? Some of the stories are we had to translate some of them. Some of them are from, let's say, the Indian community who came to Kenya. Some of them, especially those happening around the colonial time, some of them are from members of the LGBTQ plus community. And so, there's a strength in the book in that we're all together and we're all owning our stories and we're vocal about them. But then it also begs society to think kwani, with all the interventions, with all the people speaking up against this, why is it still happening? And so the book is I think it's very powerful. I've had, which was so wonderful, at our launch, there was a policeman here in Nairobi he came up to me and he asked me to sign it for him. And I could hear a walkie-talkie. He was playing clothes. I could hear a walkie-talkie, so I'm like, what's that noise, right? Yeah. And he was like, Onyango, yeah, I'm a cop. And he's like, I want to read this. It can help me do my work better.
How do you feel when you see just how much of livelihoods you've been able to impact?
I wanted to hug that man because I was just like, you never, with the way how we view our policemen, which the perception we have, I think I was more like, oh wait, you do want to help. You know what I mean? Because you have such bad encounters that you think everyone in that force is against progress or protecting us. Yeah. But here's this guy who's bought the book and has come and is telling me this is going to help me, right? That's one. There was another, we did not a launch, but like a mini engagement. Yes. And there's an older gentleman who came to me and he said, oh, I need to, and we were running out of copies. And he was like, oh, and then, at the end of an event, you're tired. You're just like, oh my Jesus, I want to take these heels off. And he's like, no, I need a copy. And I'm like running around trying to get him a copy. Get the copy. And he's like, I need to give this to my friend. I'm like, okay. He's like, my friend told me his daughter confided in him that she is a survivor. And we both don't know what we're meant to do.
So many campaigns, all these advocating for women and, somehow for young people, the No Means No campaign and so many others. Tell me about it and how do you even think about stuff? Because I understand from your podcast you are legally clueless. I need to understand these other parts of you now.
Yeah. I think it's legally clueless across the board. I don't think we all know what we're doing. We just put one foot in front of the other. And so even with the campaigns or advocacy work that I've done, I think it's more of being an active citizen. And I remember that's a concept that my friend and such a good Kenyan, Boniface Mwangi, introduced me to. And he kept saying, I'm not an activist, I'm an active citizen. And I used to think about that. I'm like, okay, so there's dormant ones, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But they are.
Yeah.
And so I remember thinking, oh yeah, so you just speak out. Like if you see something that you're like, this should not be happening like this, you speak out. Because also with your level of privilege, which we all need to acknowledge, I know there's a level of privilege I have, it means the consequences of me speaking up are much less than, say, the next person of not as much privilege. So then it requires me to be more vocal about certain things, right? And even with women, I feel very strongly in my own journeys, it's like, how can I, if I can make a woman discover this power and this
that they have,
that I've discovered that I have, right? If I can help nudge you there, I would be so excited about it. You know what I mean? And so, and also it's looking at, even if let's say it was a man going through particular issues, right? I would still have to speak out because they're human, right? So I think you can't be coached into that. If you just remember your humanity, then you'll start to understand that I should not be silent when something wrong is happening in my estate, in my family, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Wherever you are, you need to be vocal and exercise that muscle of being vocal, and it gets easier over time,
Wow, I'm so happy to hear that. And congratulations to the many awards you've been receiving
Thank you.
globally,
Thank
including the top 100 under 40, right? And so many others. Tell me about it. How many? How many right now?
There are quite a few. I've been honored by BBC 100 Women, Facebook's Icon of Change, top 100 Africans of influence or something. It's not on the top of my mind because I think it's wonderful, and I'm gracious enough to say thank you. Thank you for seeing me.
How does it feel when somebody appreciates the little things that you do?
It feels great, but there's a quote that says, be great. I don't know what it says, but I'm going to just rephrase it. But something along the lines of, take it to your heart and almost be grateful about it, but don't take it to your head.
So I think that quote will wrap our show today.
Yes.
Thank you so much for your time.
I hope you got some inspiration from this young lady who hasn't shied away from amplifying African voices. Make sure you join us again every Saturday at 8:30 p.m. Kenyan time only on KTN News. And if you have a story you'd like to share with us, don't hesitate. Write to us through globetraktion@standardmedia.co.ke or DM us on our social media platforms at globetraktion or at KTN News KE. You can also tap that follow button to me on my social media platforms at Pasil Telewa, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and YouTube for more or behind the scenes. But until then, I hope to catch up with you again soon, next time. Same place, same time. Bye-bye for now.
soon.